Sprint car racing continues to shift and change at a rapid rate. We've got 2 national series, a regional scene that's undergoing its own transformations, and a bunch of driver and team swaps for 2026. 1 year ago, around this same time, we talked the state of sprint car racing with Jeremy Elliott, and today he's back to do it all over again. We're talking World of Outlaws, High Limit, the PA Series, champions, storylines, and a lot more. Let's go. Hello friends, I'm Justin Fiedler. This is Dirt Tracker Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. We are deep into the holiday season. If you're still scrambling to figure out what to get that special someone in your life, what about the gift of dirt racing? A subscription to Flow Racing will get them thousands of hours of racing content a season, and even though it's quiet right now, things will start popping back off here soon. High Limit in Australia, Tulsa Shootout, Chili Bowl, and Wild West Shootout are just around the corner. If you want to tune in and don't have a Flow subscription, head over to dirttracker.com/flowracing and sign up. Once you're signed up, you'll be ready to roll straight into the 2026 dirt racing season. I've been a paid Flow subscriber myself for a long time. I've got the app on my phone. We watch on the Roku. I use the website regularly. So if you want to join me and thousands of your dirt racing friends, that's dirttracker.com/flowracing. There aren't many out there who know more about what's going on in sprint car racing than Jeremy Elliott. You can find his writing and breaking news at sprintcarunlimited.com, and he's got new video content almost every day over on his YouTube channel. The last few years have given us a lot to talk about around sprint cars, and 2025 headed into 2026, certainly no different. Who are the drivers to watch? What's happening with high limit franchises? Will anything change with the Sprint Car Council? Can the PA Posse 410 Sprint Car Series be successful? And whatever happened to gambling on dirt racing? On this special holiday week edition of Dirt Tracker Daily, me and Jeremy dive into all of this and a whole lot more. Buckle up because there is going to be a lot to digest in here, so I hope you enjoy it. Jeremy Elliott, we are coming hot right out of the gate. What is sprint car racing's biggest problem? Ready, go.
Wow. Biggest problem. There's so many. Costs. Right now, I did a thing on Jeff Halligan yesterday on the 90 at 9, and he's the second team now the second team who's folding up shop because of costs. And all we hear is about tires, I hear about that more than rebuilds and engines at this point. But yes, you have engine costs. So I'd say costs right now, the cost of the sport, whether and not just in the pit area, but with fans. I think you look at a national touring series now and it's $45 to get in. I think there's, some areas of the country, it's 50, 55. You go to Paris, you're paying, $40 to park or whatever it is. So I think just the cost all the way around for the teams and then for fans with the number of races and just the rising admission prices.
You were just at PRI here not that long ago.
Yep.
What were kind of the vibes at PRI for sprint car racing? What were the conversations you were having? And just what is your kind of general feeling about things coming out of the trade show?
Surprisingly, there just wasn't a lot of news because it happens from July until November, early December now. So it's not even, you don't get a lot of news out there. The Gio Scelzi thing we knew was going to happen. I think the big thing was sponsorship. We heard about the Kubota stuff. I did a 90 at 9 on it. You heard it as well. Even though I don't know how big that is, it's still a hot talking point with fans. The Spire and what Spire paid for that franchise / charter, whatever you want to call it. And I just think the business side of things has really escalated more so than it has over the last few years. I think that's going to continue, as we go along here with, sponsorships, franchises, money being added to both series. To me, the business side's every bit as important as the silly season news. And the other one is the scheduling. I don't think I've ever seen scheduling become such a big issue that people pay attention to than I did this year. So I just think you're seeing a shift instead of like guys like you and me at this point. I think that we're not only focused on silly season now and who goes where, it is the business side of it and also scheduling.
We did this last year. We did kind of just the general state of sprint car racing, and at the time, a lot of things were happening with high limit. People were choosing sides and all of this type of stuff. Another year down the road, and we'll start first with high limit. Where do you kind of view high limit here now after year two? We're basically into the franchise era now. Everybody's got them, but just overall, like where do you think high limit is at the moment?
I mean, I think they're in a good spot. They pulled off the franchise thing. That was the big, the naysayers. That was always the big thing. Oh, the franchise. Let's wait till it gets off the ground, or oh, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, it's here. They have it, and it's executed. Okay, now I've not seen a check given out yet. Yes, but it's here, and for all intents and purposes, it's done. They pulled it off. So I think that was a major thing. I think their schedule is still in the works. I've said 5 years till you really get a set schedule where you're really where you're going to go. Your pillars of your schedule, so to speak. Like the Outlaws have the Grove, Knoxville, and all that. Well, high limit now is Port Royal. For some reason, they have Lucas Oil Speedway. I don't see big crowds there, but regardless, Skagit, places like that. But still, I mean, you're going to see some turnover for about 5 years, but they're making it work. So I think they're in a good spot. It looks like the FS1 thing might happen again. Just talking to Brad, I listened to your interview. It seems like that might be a possibility again. I'm not worried about the Kubota end of it because, as you and I both know, that is a flow thing that they're getting. I talked to Brad about it. The first 5-6 years, they really don't have a lot to sell because they don't have data yet. You're an analytics guy. They're new. So Flow's going to kind of help out with that. And I think year 5 or 6 high limit, that's, I think, where we really get a sense of where they're at from a title sponsor standpoint. They have a decent roster. I would have liked to have seen more guys go over there. But I think there's reasons for that. But still, healthy roster, got Gio Celsi, got a bunch of guys back. Danny Sam, Cy Lynch came back. They liked the series. I went to their banquet. I didn't hear one negative thing the whole night. Something that stood out to me, Aaron Reitzel, not the most positive guy all the time. And I was at Port Royal for the Tuscarora 50 weekend, and I didn't even ask him about the series, and he gushed about it. He loves it. And I just think there's a vibe around that series that's kind of positive with all the teams in the pit area. And I think that's a good thing. As far as the financial end, look, I guess it's transitional. It's like you said, it completed year 2. But they've delivered on all their promises. So at that rate for a series starting out, I think that they're in a good spot.
And obviously, same question then for the World of Outlaws we talked last year about like things being status quo, and it feels like just kind of a lot more status quo this year. The top of the roster is going to be the same. We know they've added some money to things for next year, but what is your just kind of overall feeling about the Outlaws season?
You said it, status quo. I mean, I still think, my one concern for high limit, and this goes back to the Outlaws, and it kind of, teams say they want more money, and there's more money on the high limit side, but the Outlaws were able to retain their big three. It didn't make anybody jump. So that's a concern for high limit and a good thing for the Outlaws. You have David Gravel, you have Buddy Kofoid, and you have Carson Macedo. And to me, that's 3 of the top 4 guys in the country. And I mean, at that rate, that's good. They added more money. They didn't have to kill themselves. They are adding $40,000, spreading it within the top 10. So they didn't even have to match high limit, position for position. So that's a good thing for them. Their schedule, it's not flashy, but again, guys must be okay with it. So I think it's status quo. I still think Dirt Vision does a great job. I think Dirt Vision is still the pinnacle of the sport as far as streaming. I think their broadcast is really good. Not that high limits or flows are bad, but I do think Dirt Vision is slightly above right now. And the Outlaws have a solid roster. They have the name. They're not going anywhere. Either is High Limit. So I don't think there's a lot of chinks in the armor for the Outlaws. And I'd like to see more transparency and other things. But look, they're going to go into 2026 basically intact in the same way they went into 2025. So again, that's a win for them.
I feel like something that I've seen you take a beating for a lot is saying that David Gravel and Buddy Kofoid are the top two drivers. And when we look at the two rosters, I feel like me and you are pretty much on the same wavelength here. But I think the top of the Outlaw roster is better than the top of the High Limit roster. But I think the High Limit roster is deeper. Like I think there's less of a spread from P1 to P7, P8. And I'm wondering if it's like almost worse for the Outlaws because you've got those top couple of guys that really seem to dominate, whereas it's like there's things seem to be just a bit more wide open on the High Limit side. And I'm wondering if you think the same thing, that there's just like maybe that helps out High Limit a little bit.
I think it does. I think if you're a team look, Kerry Madsen went there for a reason. He thinks he can finish in the top 8. And he can get something that is tangible, a franchise. You can earn it. It means something. Look at Jason Myers. We both know that he sold that thing for north of $400,000. That is an asset. If let's say they earn a charter, Vermeer, wants to get out of it, he has something to sell other than his equipment, and somebody will buy it, guaranteed. So, yes, I think people feel that they can win with High Limit more. I think more. Where's Emerson Axum go? I mean, if I'm Emerson, I'm going to High Limit because you're not beating Buddy Kofoid and David Gravel. They will be 1-2 again next year. I will bet every nickel I have on it. And they are the two best in the sport, and they're not going anywhere. I said Buddy Kofoid's going to win the title in 2027 because I think Buddy Kofoid's going to be the best in the sport. So, yeah, I think you're right on the High Limit being a little deeper. Potential, they're young guys. And the Outlaws have they have a big 3, and it's 3 of the top 4 guys. So I thought maybe Carson Macedo would jump, and I think that would have shifted things. I think he was that important, but I heard he got a little money to stay. So, I don't think your assessment's wrong. And I think High Limit's the series where I think it's younger guys can go, cut their teeth on a national tour, do well, and make some money. Whereas if you're going to the Outlaws, good luck trying to beat those guys at the top. They are just so far ahead of everyone.
We hear this all the time about everybody as a kid was like, oh, I want to go be a World of Outlaws driver. And I'm wondering how long you think that's going to work to continue drawing people to the Outlaw side. And obviously we know there's a ton of money available, and there's going to be even more money available in the future from High Limit. And a big question is going to be, can World Racing Group keep up? But how long can World Racing Group continue trading on their tradition, do you think, with the Outlaws?
Well, I mean, as long as your big guys stay there, it comes down to that. I don't have a timetable because I don't think there's a shift because nobody big is left. Like a Carson Macedo or a David Gravel. And when does that happen? I could see David Gravel in big game at some point 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road saying, let's try this High Limit thing. It's $600,000 to win over there. I don't think the Outlaws will ever get there. I mean, I think they're going to go to 400, 450. Can they really afford to get to 600,000? I don't think so. And why would they have to at this point? So I don't think it's so much a time. I think it's when they get a big guy to flip. I think that's when people start going, woo, this High Limit thing's, pardon the pun, whoa. But this is, now we got to seriously look at this as a landing spot. And I think your teenagers, 20-year-olds, I could see them going there. Emerson Axum will be an interesting one where he ends up. I think that's a small piece, but otherwise it's when a bigger team flips and goes over there. I don't necessarily think it's a time frame.
I feel like we saw Gravel kind of shift this year. He became Gravel the villain. We're raining the booze on him, and he's soaking that up. Do you think this is like the right move for him? Like, I don't like. Are we calling this a heel turn? I don't really know, but like, is this the right career move for Gravel to embrace being the bad guy here?
I don't think it's a bad move. I mean, look, we saw this. We've seen this for forever. You had Sammy Steve. It's not like they went out to dinner together. You had Shepard Raymer in Pennsylvania. The thing with David is it's hard for me to get behind it because it just like he could have. I thought like his T-shirt. I thought he could have went a lot harder. Like he wants to dip his toe in the villain pool, but he kind of it's just a toe. He won't just jump into it. It's a little cold. I'm gonna do it, but I'm not gonna commit. Which is many things in sprint car racing. They don't commit fully. If he was gonna commit fully to the villain role, I'd be good with it. Now it just seems like it's kind of forced. And I like David. I think David is funny. I think he has a good. I think there's a lot of positives about his personality. I wish we'd see it on the track more or in that arena more. But I think it takes a lot to commit to being a villain. He is not a villain by nature. He's just not. Cody Jacobs, yeah, that it just seems like he's not. I want him to embrace it more, for lack of a better term.
I get it. Brad Sweet's season. We obviously know that his career is now as a full-time driver has come to an end. He won the high limit championship last year, but was maybe a little bit more on the back foot than we'd seen before. Then doesn't have Prutzman this year. The Ty Wolfgang thing doesn't really work out, and he misses out on the championship. Did this season go how you thought it was going to go for Brad? And do you think that, and I just talked to him not that long ago. I know you talked to him as well. Do you think the fact that he kind of wasn't at the top, like if Brad wins the high limit championship this year going away, like, do you think he walks away?
Yes. I do. I think this has been thought about for a while, I think. And I think it's on a lot of fronts. Do I think he wanted to go out this way? No. I mean, the Eldora thing and not winning the championship, I don't think anybody, I mean, he's a competitor. So there's no way he wanted to, go out like that. But I think this has been in the works a while. I think the Eldora wreck just kind of solidified it. I think it was going to happen. I think that the chirping about Brad running his own series, I think Brad, because when I talked to him about the retirement thing before Texas, he mentioned that a couple times. He knew it was time that this series has grown enough that he doesn't need to run it anymore. And it was actually a negative that he was running it. So now that negative's gone. And I really think too, he enjoys the business side of this sport. I think he's good at the business side of this sport. And so, yeah, I think it was going to happen. I think it was a combination of, I don't think the fire was there as much in the car to run every weekend and a full schedule. I think the business side of high limit was calling. And I think too, setting the future for KKR. Obviously, Casey wasn't getting out of it. Now was the time. There was a good, suitable person to follow in his footsteps in Dason Pursley. You can't let that get away. Say Dason goes somewhere else, Brad sticks around another year and a half. Who are you putting in it? I think Dason fits that KKR mold. And people can say there's not a KKR mold. There's a KKR mold. So I think there were a lot of factors. And I think the Eldora crash and just how I just think it solidified it.
Bringing up KKR there, I had that written down as one of the things I wanted to ask you about with Dazen and a new crew chief. I feel like we're really seeing kind of KKR back to square one. They've been at the top for so long with Brad and with Pittman winning a championship. And now they're trying to figure it out again, right? Like they don't have that veteran leadership like they had before. They've got a driver who's still trying to figure out even how to race with a wing on. How long do you think it takes them to get up to speed, to win races and to really be maybe a solid top 5 team with high limit every night?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I do think they'll win a couple races this year because I just think Dason's that good, and I think he's come a long way. Jarrett, the crew chief, is he worked on boat stuff. I think he worked on his sprint car, and that sprint car had speed. The speed wasn't a problem. So I do think they'll win a couple races. Do I think they'll win the title? No. I think you're going to take a couple years for that. You got to learn to win titles, consistency. Plus, Rico's there. I think Tyler Courtney. It sounds like he's not wearing the glasses anymore. It sounds like he's going to be full tilt. So I think it's going to take a couple years to be a championship team, but I think they're going to be a contender this year as far as winning races. I think they're going to get some top 5 finishes. I think probably by about May, I think you'll start to see them pick up some consistency. I just think Dason's that good. I think he's a machine. I think everything he touches, he makes it work. How many guys can get injured in November? They were talking about possible paralysis, and he walks into the Chili Bowl in January. I don't believe that that's luck. I think it's a guy who just overcomes stuff, figures it out, and goes about his business. And I think Dason Pursley's that guy.
When we look at the high limit roster for next year, like you start going down the line and it's like there are question marks like for almost every team. And I know, Rico and Ricky Warner and all those guys are still back, but like now they're in a new building and it's like it's not Rico Avery Racing anymore, it's TSR. And you look at Brent Marks has a new crew and Justin Peck's going to have a new crew chief. And what can Gio do? It's like everybody in the top there has a question mark except one, and that's Aaron Reitzel. Do we think Aaron could win this championship next year? I feel like he was close this year. Things didn't quite go his way, the injuries and all that type of stuff. But can Reitzel like take control of this thing and really lead all season?
Sure. Yeah, I think Aaron Reitzel's a top 10 driver in the country. I mean, just talent-wise. I've thought that ever since probably, we can talk about the cheating deal at the Outlaws. I thought he was a top 10 guy then. He is a really good driver. And it's not only that, he can work on stuff. He is the decision maker in that team. It is his package from start to finish. He knows what it does. He knows what it does at different tracks. Aaron is sharp. He knows what to do with the race car, and he can certainly drive it. And, I think Lernerville hurt him last year. The 2-day show at Lernerville hurt. It was not good. I was at those 2 nights and just a couple little setbacks. He qualified one night. I don't think he qualified well. And then of course you had the heat race incident, which hurt him. He would have been near the front of the field. So, I have no doubt that he can go win the high limit title. I think you hit on a couple things with the roster. I think the Outlaw roster is the same. I think both of these rosters have a lot of question marks, and high limit certainly more, but I think that also makes it interesting. And I think there's a lot of talking points. And one thing high limit does well from a social engagement with the fans, they'll keep you up to date on those storylines and their title hunt and all that other stuff going on. And it's going to be stories throughout the year. And yes, Aaron Reitzel can win that title. Anybody who sleeps on him, that's a big mistake because he can certainly win races and he can also time well and be consistent.
I don't want to diminish anything that Rico accomplished last year because he won a lot of races. They win the championship. Like you can only take on the challenge that's in front of you. And he was the champion last year, but the average finish, not quite where we normally see, a champion for a major national tour. Rico's still missing those crown jewel wins. And I'm curious what your expectations are for him and that team next year. Do you think they can ratchet it up even another level, or do you think they're going to come down a little bit, from what they did this past season?
That's one of those storylines because I think he's taking on a lot. I mean, yes, it's all his equipment, and yeah, he's just moving it over to TSR. It's still a pain. It's still something you have to worry about. And then he has the Speedway deal, and then he's going to Australia, and then you have all these little things and they take time. And Rico has a lot of demands on his time to begin with. And it's one thing to win a title. Defending a title is a different animal all the way around. I mean, you ask Donnie Schatz, you ask Brad Sweet, you ask any of those guys, and it is different. So I thought Rico had a really good year. Obviously, he was just named driver and team of the year. I probably don't pick him over Gravel in that regard, but you know, he did everything that was asked, and he responded in clutch moments. Look, Texas, he didn't have a large lead. He went into Texas and he swept the thing. So you can't. He did what he needed to do. I think the year will be pretty close to the same. I think it's going to be. He's going to win races, and maybe not quite as many. You get to 20 wins, albeit a couple of them were 360 wins. You get to 20 wins, that's a lot nowadays. So if I could see him winning 12 to 15 times, obviously I think he'll have more resources to test. I know that was something he talked about, which could help. And I don't know. We'll see. I think 12 to 15 wins. Consistency probably needs to be a little better if Aaron Reitzel doesn't get hurt. So I think we're going to have another point battle next year that's pretty close. I think it'll be roughly the same. I don't see a huge drop off, but I don't think he gets to 20.
On the Outlaw side, like a lot of things are going to be the same at the top of the roster. Gravel and Cody Jacobs back together, Dylan Buswell and Buddy Kofoid. It seems like Toyota's gotten a lot of the kind of reliability issues figured out with their engine. Kofoid a lot more consistent this last year. And if he can get through Volusia, and if he can run better at Knoxville, if he can run better at Eldora, do you think Kofoid could legitimately win the championship this year, or do you think he's still a year away?
I think he's a year away. And it's because of those three tracks. It's Volusia, the Grove, Knoxville, and Eldora. Now, Eldora is not as big of a deal now because they don't have anything they only have 3-point shows there, I believe. They have Let's Race 2, and then they have the night before the King's Royal. So I don't think that's as big of a hurdle to cross. It's not a great track for him, and I would argue that's probably his worst track out of all of them, which is surprising. But he's got to get a better start in Volusia. And I just think he's a year away. I think he needs a few more laps at Knoxville. I think the Williams Grove thing's getting a lot better. He won there, obviously. So I think another year of seasoning. Now, I do think it'll be close, though. I don't think he's going to lose by 200 points. I think it's going to be a lot like this year. I could see him staying within 70 to 80 points because here's the thing, too. Gravel's got to average that fourth place finish, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And how many dashes he made. So I think Kofoid gets closer. I think it's roughly 40 points at the end. And don't forget, David's really good at Charlotte. And even though Buddy was impressive at Charlotte, David has to have if you're 40 points back, you got a lot of points to make up. And David just doesn't allow that to happen at Charlotte. So I think Volusia's critical and Knoxville are critical. Those two places are the make or break for Kofoid this year. I think he needs another year to get more laps there and kind of figure those two places out. And I think the following year he gets it done.
I've been surprised by Macedo not being more of, kind of a player in the championship. I thought, with as quickly as it seemed like he figured it out, it didn't take him, but a couple of seasons to really be winning a lot of races. And it seems like maybe there's been just a little bit of a step back there. Once he's kind of gotten to that top. Can we talk about him in this same conversation, or do you think he's too far away at this point? Do you think Kofoid and Gravel have just separated themselves enough from where Macedo is?
They had some mechanical woes last year, and I just think he's going to have to make up 200 points. That's a lot. I think Kofoid and Gravel separated themselves. I don't know how you make that up. And that's, I look at the schedule. He's still winning races. He won double-digit races. So where are you making that up? It's not like they dropped down to 6 wins or 5 wins. They had double digits, and they still were 200 points back. So I think there's some product stuff they have to clean up. They had some wheels break out. I mean, you can't have that. You can't get in some of the stuff with other cars, being at the wrong place at the right time, so to speak. It's got to be cleaned up. You can't have those nights. If you're going to beat Gravel and Kofoid, you better qualify and get in dashes every night. You can't be starting 12th in the field and hoping you get to 5th, 4th, because you get caught up in stuff. I just think right now they're a step behind. And I don't know how you make up 200 points. That's a lot. If you're talking about making up 40, 50, that's one thing. 200, and I think Carson is really good. I think he's a top 5 guy in the sport. I'm not going to treat it like he's dropped off. I just think for some reason they have stuff happen to them, and the other 2 cars don't.
When we look, and I want to be clear, like we're recording this on December 19th, so it's possible that in the coming days there could be more additions to High Limit and Outlaw roster. But in terms of the rookies we know about right now, and really like just kind of lumping them all into one group, who are the rookies you're looking at for good seasons? And, obviously talk about Tanner Holmes, Boguski, Ashton Torgerson, Scotty Thiel. Like who in this group are you excited to see? And who do you think is possible could have a breakout season?
The guy I'm watching is Ashton Torgerson for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think everybody owes him an apology. Everybody said, oh my God, it's a terrible pick. How could you pick him? Goes out and wins at BAPS. Okay, maybe beginner's luck, whatever. He had some good runs throughout the season in Central Pennsylvania, a place he's never raced before. So I liked what I saw from Ashton Torgerson this year. And I'm anxious to see how he does on the road. Does he keep progressing? Do I think any of the rookies have a breakout? No. I don't think we're going to have that this year. Tanner Holmes is going to be interesting because it hasn't started well. World Finals was horrible. BAP's not good either. And I don't think Book is going to ride it out because he's good on YouTube. Okay. You're going to have some results. You're on a national tour now. So I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying it better happen by June or July. We better have some more consistency or he'll be replaced. And so, but Ashton Torgerson is the one who's on my radar. I thought he had a good 2025 season, a good base. I don't know if I would have taken him out on a national tour yet. I think I would have went with another year. I'm big into hey, let's ease into this. But that's the guy I'm watching now and thinking, it's the guy I'm interested in. And Emerson Axum is going to be a part of a tour, so I don't think it's wrong to talk about him. It seems like he's better in that 27 car than he will be or in anybody else's. So I'm interested to see him as well, what tour he goes to. And I think we forget because last year he didn't do well, but he finished second at Angel Park in October this past year. And the year before, he's 6th in the Kings World, made the Knoxville Nationals A main. That's pretty hard to do at his age. So I'll be interested to see what he does as well.
I feel like this is going to be now a topic of conversation over the next couple of years. Like we've given out the first set of franchises for High Limit. Now it's like there's going to be, another round over the next 2 years. But when we look at the guys that are on that roster, the guys they've added, talk about Kerry Madsen, Cy Lynch back, Danny Sam's back. Do we think that there is actually somebody that can jump in here and be in the top 8 2 years or be in the top 3 1 year and actually get one of these? Or do you think it's more likely that we get to 2028 and nobody has earned one?
You and I disagree on this one.
Yeah.
And because I do think Kerry Madsen can get one. And the reason I do is because of all the, as we talked about, the uncertainty in the roster as far as each team. So Kerry qualifies well, has always qualified well. When he ran with them last year, that whole thing, and we go back to Lakeside, he was in the mix to win that one. Yes, it's only one track, but there was speed in the car, and now you're combining 2 teams into one. And I think that's a critical thing. I know for a fact they have a lot of equipment. And I do know they're working on their engine program and doing some different things there. So I do believe that they can. Now, I'm not saying they can finish 4th or 3rd, but I do think 8th is doable. The guys in front of them, okay, let's say Rico, Courtney, Brent Marks, who, again, as a new crew, we're going to have Aaron Reitzel, so that's 4. I said Rico already. Gio, okay, maybe 5th. And then you're down into the Pursley,
Peck,
Tanner,
Thorson.
Peck, Thorson. I don't think those teams are so glaringly better. I mean, Tanner Thorson struggles on big tracks. Kerry's really good at big tracks. And Kerry can also race smaller tracks. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he comes, let's say he finishes eighth each year, he's gonna get a franchise. So I think it's doable. Now, I think and talking to Ty Wolfgang, I know he's been burning the midnight oil to get this thing together. They have a shop at Port Royal. The key for them is going to be Port Royal because there's a lot of guys who lose points at Port Royal. Tanner, that group that we just talked about, it's sixth, seventh, and eighth that he's going to be fighting with the Pecks, the Dason Pursley, all this. How do those guys do at Port Royal? Tanner Thorson doesn't do well at Port Royal. So, and I think, Kerry won there a few years ago. And granted, Ricky Warner was turning the wrenches, but I just think that there's opportunity there. And I do think they can, not saying they definitely will, but I think it's closer than you think.
I'm curious too about and I feel like we maybe are a little different on this opinion as well about like what is possible for Gio next year. And I don't know that we have seen Gio like in a really great situation. Like, not that the 18 car is a bad situation, but like, a couple of wins a year, a sixth, seventh, eighth points finish. I feel like Prutzman could be a game changer here. And I'm wondering, like, I don't know that I think he could win the championship, but I do think he could be a top 3 or 4 guy. And I'm wondering like what your questions are around that team.
Gio is an interesting topic because, and I'll probably do a 90 at 9 at some point in January on this going into Volusia. Does he have something to prove? Okay. To him, no. But I think there's fans who question Gio and where he's at right now. Is it, the 18, were the expectations higher when he finished fourth in points as a rookie with the World of Outlaws? So, my problem with that is, or my concerns with that team, Stanton Motors and what's the Schnee Lawson chassis. How long is it going to take that combination to start paying off? Remember, Tyler Courtney struggled at the beginning of last year. I think we'd agree on that. And we didn't see him break out of it a ton because he got injured. So I think the question mark is does that combination work for Gio? I have no doubts in Eric Prutzman. I do believe in Gio. I do think Gio's a good driver. But again, I believe this sport is very situational. You bring up an interesting point. Has he been in a really good situation yet? There's been flashes. There's been some consistency at times. But that situation from start to finish in a year where every night he's in the top 5 or flirting with that. I mean, he dropped down to an 8th place car and he was almost 7th or 8th every night. He talked to me about it. But I don't know. I mean, I still think to the masses, I think they want to see more from Gio. And it's going to be interesting to see if he delivers this year. I'm concerned about the combination. Again, how many guys are running Stanton Motors?
Not many.
How many guys are winning them
Yeah.
with them? So we'll see. I like Eric Prutzman building a team from scratch. Obviously, the Chili's thing doesn't hurt. Obviously, there's money there. We don't have to worry about finances. But does it all mesh together? And that's yet to be determined.
I feel like the crew chief thing, and like it's something I asked Brad about. Like we've been talking about Reitzel here, not really having a true crew chief, but it seems to me like we the top guys have that brand name crew chief, right? You've got Cody Jacobs, you've got Philip Dietz, you've got Dylan Buswell, Prutzman, Ricky Warner. Like there's a couple of just kind of main guys, and it like, can you win a title these days without one of those guys?
I think if it's Aaron Reitzel, yes. I don't think that's everybody can do it. And I think it's very, very difficult on the road. High Limit has 3 guys doing that. Tanner Thorson, Brent Marks, and Aaron Reitzel. they're pretty much the guys who are calling the shots. And I think that Aaron's the best one at it because Aaron has just has an I don't give a shit attitude. There's no other way to say it. And he's going to make it work, and that's it. And I don't think he gets in his own head too much about what he's doing on the car. I think the only thing that could get is he wants to be home. So when it comes to the car, though, I think it's decisive. I think he knows what he wants. I think there's a feel that he wants. He knows that feel really well, and it's worked out well for him with some big wins and some good performances, for long stretches of time. So I do think Aaron Reutzel's the one guy in the country who can do that. I think he was one of the first guys to really win a lot on Triple X. So I just think his package suits him so well. I think he is the only guy in the country who can do it.
The other combination that's really curious to me is Shots and CJB. And we're talking about two guys here who have very strong personalities, who have, their own ideas about how things should go. There's lots of stories on both sides about the guys. Can Barry Jackson and Donnie Schatz actually come together and work together well? And can Donnie win races? And I don't think anybody expects Donnie to go compete for the championship at any point, but can Donnie look a little bit more like Donnie again with Barry?
We're going to get an early indication at Volusia because it's a track he does very well at. So I think we're going to know early on. I waffle on this a lot, just thinking about it. Well, first off, what's your over-under? What's a good season for Donnie winning races? Let's set the parameters first.
I mean, if Donnie could win a race, I mean, he goes how many years winning so many races a year, and then he's winless since October 2024, right? So I think getting that first one out of the way, I think would be a big deal. But can we get to a point where Donnie is again winning, 3 or 4 races a year?
I think he wins 3 this year.
Okay.
I'm going to set it at 3. It's the over under. I might gamble a little bit, but I think it's 3 wins. I do think, look, I talked to a lot of people about this, and they were like, he'll do what he did last year. Last year was such a weird, it was
which he did say, by the way. He talked about with Connor Wade about just kind of being in survival mode after losing the TSR deal.
It was unfathomable that he went through a year like that. And I think there's 0.0 chance he has a year like he had last year. I don't think it could be worse. You're switching cars and switching equipment and just hoping you had one motor, one car. You can't exactly dive bomb anybody or race hard with anybody when you have one motor and one car to get through 15 races. You can't do it. To think he could do that is laughable. So there's no way he's going to be as bad as last year. Can Barry, look, Barry, you have 2 strong personalities here, huge personalities. But I do think because of that, Barry will challenge Donnie a little, which I think Donnie needs. I think people overlook that Ricky Warner challenged Donnie Schatz a lot if you watched him in the pit area. I think Barry can challenge him just enough where it doesn't overstep the line, because Barry Jackson can't say I've won more than you. So it's where Brenham Crouch or somebody else, even though that relationship was fine, maybe some other guys it didn't work out with Shane Stewart or guys like that. It was kind of more the other way. This is different. I do think they can coexist. I had somebody tell me he'll be out of the car in July. There's no way that Donnie will be out of that car in July because he's not going to do what he did last year. So I think they'll be better. I don't necessarily. Where did he finish in points? 6th?
Yeah.
Maybe he gets to 5th. But your top 3 guys, he's not going to, penetrate that force field. Those 3 guys at the top are really good, but I do think he'll win 3 races. I do think he'll have more than 10 top 5s this year.
Donnie was obviously a big part of silly season and what's he going to do. Were you surprised by any of the silly season stuff? And I know there were some just horrifically kept secrets this year, things that everybody in the world knew about long before they were advanced. But is there anything that surprised you in any of the driver or team moves?
Those things make my job so difficult. But the Donnie CJB thing was one of the bigger ones because the rumor, and we can say it now, was a second big game car. And then I heard, a combo deal where big game was part of it. And I was heard that Donnie had this much money and this many engines, and there was going to be a combo deal. And then I thought maybe Lundstrom, because that would make sense that, two Midwest guys get together for Donnie. But CJB was late to that game. That was not on the radar when I talked to Barry, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And then it just materialized. So I think that one was huge. As far as everything else, we just knew. Like, I'm not surprised that Sheldon. I mean, that was rumored for a couple of years that was going to be coming to an end. It wasn't a surprise. Gio got things rolling in grand fashion by leaving KCP. And once he went over there, I started hearing right away about a second car. So other than that, I mean, look, the Rico TSR thing, it makes sense, but I do think it's a surprise. I never thought they'd split up during the year. That's even surpasses the Donnie CJB thing. I thought those two would get to the end of the year and they'd part ways. I never imagined Tony Stewart and Donnie Schatz would part ways after Knoxville. It didn't really make sense to me. I understand that going your separate, but you can do that behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You don't need to hey, at the end of the year we're going to release you put something together. It's done all the time. So that one probably the biggest one. And Rico coming over, it just made sense.
I want to talk about some kind of a little bit more current event things. And we'll start first in your neck of the woods. This PA Posse series, we're kind of a couple of months, weeks, whatever, since this whole thing's been announced. And I know you've talked to a crap load of people about it and teams and drivers. And I know you get asked all the time about who's going to run this thing full time and all of this, but where are you at right now on your feelings on this? And it's like, we want this thing to be successful. We want it to do well. But have they shot themselves in the foot on some things here?
It was a good idea, but I don't like the execution is my big thing. And it's the number of races, first and foremost. There might be 3 teams that I know of who run this thing. The 2 that stand out as probably definite is Freddie Raymer and Troy Wogman, that's fine. You get your 3 mulligans, which make 0 sense to me because if you need mulligans, then your series is too long. It's plain and simple. So the number of races it's just too many. I would have liked to have seen 25 to 30, ease into it, and get as many people to run it as possible, and go from there. You have some place to go then. Next year, if it does well, hey, we want to go to 35 races. You always, in any business or anything, you want to have more you can do. They're at 47. Are they going to go to 50? There's no way they're making it more. So they're kind of in this thing where they can't expand it. This is it. They went top shelf right away. So I think that's a problem. The number of guys running it. If you're trying to sell it to people, how do you know when guys are going to run? How do you know Macri's going to run? Dietrich's going to miss 5 to 6 races. Which ones is he going to miss? So as a fan, I'm paying maybe an extra $5 to see guys I can see last week at a regular weekly show at Lincoln or Port Royal or Williams Grove. So that falls flat to me. The other thing is I don't like the $4,000 sanction fee. And that's not talked about enough. So you pay $2,000 to get in the schedule. That's up front. And then you pay an additional $2,000 on the day of the race. Well, the problem with that is if I'm Bedford, if you look at the scheduling, look at the races of when guys can't be there. Knoxville Nationals is Clinton County and Selinsgrove. Go with God if you're going to draw your big names that night. That's not good. For those tracks, they're going to be paying $4,000 extra off what they make or don't make. They didn't get the big guys. It's just bad. That's a bad. I wouldn't want that date. I wouldn't even take it because I'm not going to get Anthony Macri. So it's just a lot of holes in it right now. The point fund's nice, albeit the 200,000 doesn't add up. It's 188,000 with the 4,000. They put it in for rainouts, and I know they figured that in there. And I know they're throwing Speed Week in there, but Speed Week's separate from that. Their point fund's separate. So there's just a lot of things that I thought maybe weren't considered that could have been considered, like standard rules across the board. If you're running a series, have standard rules in tech. Teching's a big problem in central Pennsylvania. So why not fix those problems? That being said, I poo-pooed it. But I will say this. I want to give a couple positives. We want to be a curmudgeon on your show. The tracks were at least got in a room and talked. That's something that hasn't happened. I think it's a huge positive, and I think it opens the door for things in the future. That's where it ends for me. So good idea. I just wish it would have been executed a little differently.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest concern is you can't guarantee you're going to have all the big guys at every single race. Right. So they're obviously going to charge a premium ticket price over a standard Friday at Williams Grove, Saturday at Lincoln, right? So how do you justify charging a higher ticket price when you can't say for sure that Anthony Macri is going to be at some of those races? And I think that's the one thing that I worry about. And I understand that there are lots of other teams in Central PA, and there's going to be smaller guys that are going to get an opportunity to go run a series, and I think that's great. But in terms of this thing like being really financially successful, it's like you got to get the fans to show up, and it's like when you don't, like if you end up with a night where there's no Dietrich, no Macri, no Chase Dietz, like can you charge $5, $10 more a ticket when you can't guarantee those guys? And I think that's my biggest issue with it is when you say, we're going to run a series. Cool. It's a lot of races. Okay. Well, so now guys are going to miss, and now you're going to charge a premium on top of that. I feel like that's the big miss that I think.
Well, I'm going to take it the reverse. Okay. Let's say you do get fans to come out for that. You're still having weekly racing here. They're not going to those. So is the bigger loss you take on these weekly races that aren't part of the series? Are you really gaining anything if a few more people go to the series races? Is it a push? What's the line? We don't know that. It's going to be interesting to see what fans do for these races. Are they going to pony up $5 extra to see a guy they saw last week? They'll go to Speed Week. Speed Week won't change because it's the event. It's almost like the World of Outlaws. It's the name. People go to Speed Week shows. But here's the thing. You bring up, there's like, I think through that time, there's like 13 races in 20 days. Very few teams can do that here. And you say, well, we'll just give them a mulligan. Again, what's that mean? Because people aren't going to Bedford. Okay. I don't even know if Freddie Raymer will tow from Salfordville, which is an hour and 15 minutes away from me east, and then go to Bedford another 2 hours west of me. That's 3 hours, 3.5 hours on a Sunday night. It's just,
yeah.
And he has an engineering job. So I think you bring up a good point, and I think the reverse is true. The money you make on the series races, you might lose more on your weekly shows when people don't go to those because they're tapped out. And here's something else to think about with scheduling. There's 17 touring races in this area. That's a lot. And guys, I talked to Tyler Ross. He was a big one he was very vocal about this to me. He said, when I go to those races, if I make the feature, I'm guaranteed $1,200 or $1,000. High limit's $1,200, Outlaws $1,000. That's like finishing in the top 5 of a regular show in Central Pennsylvania. I'm not giving those up to go run a series race. So again, a lot of variables here. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and I can't wait to write and talk about it.
Have you done anything on the Sprint Car Council?
No, and I'll tell you why I haven't.
Okay.
They haven't done anything. Like,
Yeah.
here's my problem. You had a really good, and the other thing is, I think I watch your show, and I don't kind of want to say the same thing, and you basically said that the best, and I liked how you did it, sarcastic and tongue in cheek. So my problem with the Sprint Car Council is much like a lot of things in sprint car racing. We don't commit. We dip our toe in and we say highly recommended, or okay, with the PA series, here's the series, but we're going to give you mulligans. We're going to give you an out. Just commit. If you're going to have a council, have it be a governing body and say, look, this isn't allowed. That's it. Don't do the strongly recommended. Stop it. Just let's do something and commit to it fully. I saw the council back in 2018. I knew people close to me who were close friends of mine who were on that. They didn't get emails. All of a sudden they got dropped off the email list because they said things that people didn't want to hear. Those are facts. So is that going to happen again? I don't know, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because I saw it happen with the last one. So again, I'm not trying to say what they're doing is wrong. I'm saying they need to prove to me that they can follow through with it. It's as simple as that. And I agree with you. I'd like to see a couple manufacturers on there. I'd like to see a couple drivers on there because they're the ones paying the freight. Drivers and teams and owners pay the freight. And I can tell you there's a large group of people, drivers and teams, who think that tracks get to skate and the onus always falls on the team owner to put these things in effect, and it always costs them money. So that is a problem. So I think you need some owners on there, and I think you need some manufacturers on there because I think they should be represented because how hard is it to make a change? And again, I want to see it. I'll see it when I believe it. Prove me wrong. Show me some real tangible change, and I'll be on board with it.
That's like the announcement, like we didn't already know that there was supposedly a sprint car council, bothered me. And then it seems like, they put the initial announcement out, and then not long after they put the seat thing out. So it's like, okay, well, we're doing something. It's like the idea is that they're going to meet more often. They're going to talk about things regularly. They're going to take feedback from other people. I've seen all of those things. I think you bring up a really good point about the track stuff. Is somebody that I know that has spent a lot of time here and a lot of time in Australia. Like, they come here and they're like, tracks are just allowed to, get away with a lot of stuff. And I don't want to say bad things about tracks. I know the tracks that's a tough business. But there are too many nights where things just get a little hand wavy, and we're just like, okay, yeah, just don't race over on that part of the racetrack. And I don't know when we're going to get to a point where we're going to make real meaningful change and have real standards, say hey man, we're not coming back here until this gets handled. And I don't know why there's not more of that goes on. And I don't know. And I've said this before on my show. I don't know why the drivers don't band together more often and be like, yeah, we're not racing here. I don't know why the series don't use the influence they have. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of this stuff is so reactive. And I take a beating sometimes when I talk about safety, because it's like, oh, here he is again talking about the safety stuff. It's like, man, I don't want to see people get hurt. I don't want bad things to happen. Racing is dangerous enough as it is. We don't need to make it worse.
I hear you. And I'll tell you why. It's money. It comes down to money. It's okay, let's take High Limit in the World of Outlaws. If they make, we're not going there. They both need tracks. So if you're trying to fill out a schedule, you can be selective up to a point. And then if you're not selective, the other series is going to jump in, if you are selective. and then you lose dates. Where are you going to go? Can you fill out the schedule? There's all these moving pieces. So I think it's selective based on convenience. And I've always said sprint car racing is safety as long as it's convenient. And I coined that phrase, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, because it's what it is. As long as, I mean, are we going to hold Williams Grove to a standard? Are we going to hold Knoxville to, are we going to hold Port Royal? Are we going to hold, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with them. I'm saying, look how many races they have on the schedule. If something's not right there, like they're not coming back, it's like 15% of the schedule.
Yeah.
So so not that any, and I only mention them because they have so many races. So again, it's convenience. And if we need dates, we're going there. There's a couple tracks on both those schedules that are shaky. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But they're going there because they hope nothing happens. We'll get through the year. We'll reevaluate it. Maybe we can fill that date with another track. It's based on convenience.
Yeah.
And from a local standpoint, where else are you going to, yes, and band together. That's funny.
I don't think they realize how much power they could have. Obviously, they don't use any of it. But if the night at Williams Grove where it's raining and they're like, we think this is too dangerous. Like if all of the drivers got together and said to World of Outlaws officials and Williams Grove, like, we're not racing this track. Like, we're loading our stuff up and we're done. Like, things would change. But like, none of them will like get together and like, organize and have a single voice, right? Like everybody is just acting independently. I don't know. I'm not expecting them, or I don't think that, necessarily they need to form some sort of driver union or something, but like, it doesn't need to be formal. But like, if you had the entire World of Outlaws roster or entire High Limit roster get together and say, we're not racing at this place, like things would change and they would change quickly.
Yeah. There's a story. There was an outlaw show at Orange County, and Sammy Swindell said it wasn't safe. Sammy Swindell. Okay. And he went through the pit area. This was years ago. And he's, it was wet, obviously from rain. And everybody, he loaded up and everybody else got in line to go out for hot laps because they had a chance to win.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's the problem. They care about, I guess, the glory of winning, or, I don't have to race that guy. Whatever you want to call it. They won't band together. I've seen it maybe 1 or 2 times in PA. There was the night, I think it was the Speed Week show where they parked everybody out back at the Grove and they kind of band together and said, yeah, this isn't cool. I've seen it a couple times, but by and large, it's not going to happen on a large scale. Just isn't, because they look at it as an opportunity to win that. So safety we could talk about safety till we're blue in the face, but it is based on convenience. I do see some guys doing so. I think Darren Pittman does a great job and Sharpley does a great job. And, I don't know enough about the Butler seat deal. I haven't researched it really in depth. I think there's individual things that are good, but by and large, from a track /series /local regional scene, it's of convenience.
Yeah. My nominee for biggest, just absolute non-story of the year is gambling on dirt racing, and I'm curious what you think.
Yeah. And the bottom line is you can't do it enough places. And if you can't do it in central Pennsylvania, you might as well not have it. This isn't me being a homer. It's the biggest area in sprint car racing. This would be like not being able to play slots in Vegas. It's it was the biggest non-story, right up there with the Tyler Walker situation.
Yeah. It's like, I felt like there was all of this outrage and this is like this thing, and we talked about it. It's like, okay, well, maybe this is going to be some sort of game changer, and all these people were mad this is going to ruin sprint car racing.
Yeah.
And people are going to be losing their homes and all of this type of stuff. But since then, literally nothing has happened.
No, and it won't. It's very hard. Well, first off, we're not big enough. I hate to we're not big enough. We can't generate enough gambling revenue to get where it needs to go, where everybody wants it, and the impact is major. Has it ruined the NFL? No. Has it ruined the NBA? No. Have we had a couple scandals here and there? Yeah. Has it ruined it? No. And we're not even big enough to be a blip. And that's NASCAR's in casinos because it's on TV, and there's another aspect to it. There's so many aspects to getting on the gambling stratosphere and kind of bump up to where it matters. And we don't check enough boxes. It's nice that when I go to Florida in February, I'm going to be able to put money down. But it's one of these things where finish over 2.5, that's not even gambling to me. When I looked at the Seattle Seahawks and the Rams last night, it was minus 110, plus 110. I had an over-under. I could bet on players. You could bet a player versus a player. There were so many things you could do, but the audience is a lot bigger. And that's why it's something that's so coveted in those sports, and why they allow it now. And there's just so much money. I just don't know if we have the interest to generate enough money. And if you can't get it in central Pennsylvania and Iowa for the Knoxville Nationals, it's a major problem.
I asked you last year about media, and we obviously both know that there's not a lot of media covering the sport. Outside of me and you, it's pretty small. And I'm wondering if you've seen any growth in the last year, if you view things the same or differently. Just where are you at right now on the state of dirt racing media?
I think it's pretty much the same. By the way, congratulations. You got National Media Member of the Year.
I did.
You shared it with Tony Laporta, so congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
It's not gonna change. And the reason is because, again, it's not big enough that it's hard to earn a living at it. I think there are a lot of things against it. I think you can't really earn a living at it. A lot of media guys are fans. And I'll tell you the phrase, you really want to get under my skin? I had somebody say, you're not promoting the sport. I don't get paid to promote the sport. Okay? High Limit doesn't pay me, despite what people think.
I mean, are we sure?
Yeah. I mean, you've been paid by both of them.
I know. I've been accused of just being a shill for everybody at this point. So
I don't get paid by High Limit. I don't get paid by the World of Outlaws. I don't get paid by any local tracks. I have streaming at BAPS, but it doesn't mean I'll call off the dogs if they screw up, and they know that. If they screw up, I'm going to say it. That's part of the big problem too. A lot of people are fans who are in the media, or just fans. And there's got to be you got to have some training, or you've got to have a certain way of doing things to set a standard. The problem is we don't have a standard. We don't have enough people meeting that standard. And I just don't know if it's big enough, again, to get people into it to do it for a living. So you're doing it part-time, and it's kind of maybe, here again, dipping the toe in, not fully committing. I think Dirt on Dirt does a great job on the late model side. I think Kyle McFadden does a good job on that side. I think you do a good job with what you do. I don't like you being at night. It screws me up. So I'll throw, but yeah, and two, the teams try and control it. I know you've gone on about that a time or two.
Yeah, when I've had people very upset at me about that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm in the pit area so much that I have to play this this game of, hey, can I push the button? And, I never went to the Philadelphia Eagles. I never went to Howie Roseman and said, hey, do you mind if I put this out? It went within about 2 minutes, so I just think media is the same. I don't think it's going to change. I don't think we're going to see a large group of people come in and start doing it maybe the right way, or what I would consider the right way, or as thorough as I think it should be.
Kind of last thing here. I watching you kind of grow your platform, right? And I remember when you were at the newspaper, I remember you starting the site. And now like you've expanded into pay-per-view, you've got the YouTube page going. The YouTube page, I mean, just crossed over 10,000 subscribers. How do you feel kind of about just the general state of Sprint Car Unlimited and where you're at this point?
I mean, I wish it was bigger.
Don't we always?
Yeah. I like the YouTube stuff's great, and I enjoy doing it because it's quick. It gives me a chance to be creative. I've been able to take some of the creativity of writing that I hate saying the word dying medium, but guys, people don't read as much. So it's allowed me to be as creative and do more things. I'm going to do more things next year. So I'm very pleased with the growth, especially with the YouTube stuff. The pay-per-view is streaming and pay-per-view is such a murky, tough business. And it's not my favorite business, but I'm going to continue to do it. The .com side, I'd like to see a little more growth there. I get roughly, I'd say somewhere between 15 and 20% growth a year, which isn't bad. I don't know what it's at this year.
Do you think the YouTube stuff has helped the growth of the website subscribers?
I think yes, and especially my live show on Tuesday. That's one where it's totally interactive. I don't get on there and talk about anything that isn't talked about. I mean, it's the questions I get. You can ask me anything. I've had hockey questions. I've had football questions. I've had, you name it, I've had it on there. So I think that's helped a lot. And I don't think, by the way, I don't think the media does enough engagement with fans. That's one of the reasons that was kind of the reason that show came about. So I'm very pleased with the growth of Sprint Car Unlimited. Obviously, I wish it was more. We do have I'm going to do the shameless plug.
Yeah, come on.
Which is we're running a 20% discount now through January 1st, where you can get it for $28 a year. I mean, you get a weekly podcast, which I'm kind of trying to change up a little bit, thinking about that. And we're going to provide all our coverage once my hand gets better.
Well, I think Ryan is dragging you down. I think you got to find a new co-host.
I'll tell you what, Ryan Hand is great. He's he is entertaining. We go at it sometimes. We make our picks. I think I'm going to put the picks portion of that podcast on YouTube next year just to generate, because it goes back and forth pretty good. But no, all in all, I can't be upset. I'd like it to be bigger, but we're digging. It takes time to do a business. The 5-year thing is kind of, that's your base where you got to turn a profit. But I think it takes 10 years to 12 years to really get going where you're in a great spot. I think there's some people who do it well in our industry. And then I think otherwise, man, it's tough. So I can't be too upset about it. I'm living. So we're just hoping to continue to grow it and just keep chugging along. I know I missed a 90 at 9 today. God forbid. I'll blame someone.
That's fine.
But
do you have a hard time figuring out or deciding like what's going to end up on YouTube versus like what's going to end up on the website?
It's the hardest thing now, because I got to be the .com side is still the bread and butter. It's what started it all. I love to write. I love to be creative with writing. I've been writing since 1997, whether it be other sports or racing. And so it is difficult. I juggle that all the time. Sometimes it's as simple as, God, I need a topic for the 90 at 9 tomorrow. Man, I'm going to put this on that platform. It should be on the website, but boy, I need to And then there's the other things where I think it hurts me. Like breaking news always goes on the website. However, I'm going to talk about it in a different way or different role in the 90 at 9. But I think that sometimes hurts the website. So there's nothing I can do about that. And I don't do a ton of interviews because people hear my voice enough. Like I'll do yours also because it's sensible. So it's not nonsense. And I respect what you do. So it's hard. That's hard. When I come home at night from a race, I stick my post-race interviews on both platforms, figuring that not everybody goes to YouTube. And then I'll do a notebook or some kind of feature story on the website, or I'll do 5 closing thoughts from that race. But you're constantly have to be thinking of both mediums, and that does get difficult.
We know you added the live show this year, and you've been doing the deep dives. What do you see being added for 2026?
Well, I'd like to move our podcast is usually 4 segments. And the last segment is the picks. And it's entertaining with Ryan. We keep score all throughout the year, top 5s, top 10s, wins, head to head, and plus minus. So I think that'd be a fun thing for people to follow on YouTube. So I might break out that segment and move it over. I mean, there comes a point too where I run out of time feeding so many. So that's an easy thing to kind of chop off. I'll still have it on the website, but move that over. One of the things that I tinkered around with at the end of the year was doing reaction right after the race. Mm-hmm. Get my interviews, go up top, and jump on Q&A. The problem with that is these facilities don't exactly have the greatest internet. I had that problem at the Grove when I tried it the first time. I'm just maybe every Saturday do a wrap-up show or something. Those 2 things are what I'm looking at right now. You also could see, and Justin, I've talked to you a little bit about this. I don't think Dirt Vision and Flow do enough.
No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've been in their studio. I've been in Dirt Vision studio, and I've seen what Flow has. If I had those studios, I'd be using them every day.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And so one of the things I might start is a midweek show where you're talking about what happened and previewing what's coming up. The best show I've ever seen is This Week on Dirt. Mm-hmm. It was up north. It was all modifieds. It was fantastic. And I don't know why we don't have that. Now, I'll probably give it away, and maybe somebody sees this and does it. But I'd like to have a place somewhere at a track with maybe a green screen, whatever, have a kind of a set made. And I don't want to have this. And just do that like every Wednesday, 8:00. So I don't know. But those first 2 things, definite. The third one I'm still working on.
Nice. Well, I have taken enough time from you today, Jeremy. I appreciate you talking sprint car racing and the state of things again for, I think this is the 2nd straight year. And this is like your 3rd or 4th appearance, I think, on one of my shows. So I appreciate that. Just generally appreciate your friendship as well. There are very few of us doing this, so it's nice to commiserate on things once in a while. But thanks for doing this, and appreciate you, and hope you have a good holiday.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Anytime you want to talk sprint car racing, you don't have to send me any topics or anything. I can diarrhea the mouth with the best of them. So congratulations again.
Thank you
on getting 410 Media Member of the Year award, and also to Tony Laporta. And again, thank you for having me on, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.